Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Genuine Chit Chat, the podcast where we help you grow through what you go through. Today, I'm here with Barney. He suffers with prolonged concussion and he wants to share advice on how you can prevent it, how you deal with it, and just want to spread awareness. So, yeah, let's get into it. So welcome to the show and welcome everyone listening back. So do you want to just reveal a little bit about where this whole journey sort of started and what basically, to those listening, what concussion is and how you've been affected by it?
Yeah, so I used to play rugby a lot. It was always my dream growing up to play sort of professionally. And I was sort of well on the way to at least play semi-pro at university, Leeds Beckett, playing a pretty high level. And yeah, I basically just got a few concussions over the space of 3 or 4 years, and it cut my journey short, unfortunately. I then went through a sort of 2-year period of trying to recover from the most recent one after getting knocked out, and just had varying symptoms that were pretty horrible. And yeah, it was a long and tough journey, but going through that, I learned a lot. And then it inspired me to want to help others to get out of that, because I know how hard it can be, how lonely it can be. And so I ended up making a bit of an Instagram page.
Yeah, that's great.
And yeah, one thing led to another, and now I've got a few followers, but yeah, I seem to be helping people, which is really nice.
That's so good. So when you said you sort of got like the first concussions through rugby, at what point were you aware like this isn't normal, something's going wrong here?
I think, to be fair, like from about the age of 16, 17, I started to be aware that the concussions were having an effect, but I didn't realise how serious it was. So I remember getting one when I was in, I don't know, year 11, year 12, that sort of time. And I noticed that my ability to write essays and remember things, recall information, just started to decline.
Oh, really?
And it got worse, then got better, got worse, got better every time I hit my head. But I didn't quite realise that was a serious symptom. And I think as a rugby player and any sort of athlete, you sort of just push through things because that's the way you're sort of brought up to do it. But yeah, the one that made a big difference, I had a number of concussions in the space of it's like 2 months. One when I was playing in a sevens tournament, went up for a high ball and clashed heads with this guy. And yeah, I sort of saw green in my vision, classic stars around your head. And you actually do see that, by the way. It's like tweeting.
Really?
Yeah, it's almost like tweeting birds around your head.
Like those cartoons in the movies, and they go like that.
That actually happens, which was really bizarre.
And is your ears like ringing as well?
Yeah, so I mean, I didn't really have the ringing in the ears problems when I got the hits. That was more later on. Yeah. So I got tinnitus post it, and Meniere's disease as well. So I think I've still got. It's just inner ear problems, like swelling in the ear canals and stuff.
Oh no! Is that so? That's affected your hearing then now?
I don't know if I'm more deaf, but definitely get tinnitus all the time. So just get high pitched noise in my ear.
So you can still hear your voice through this?
Yes, just about. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean, when I started to notice it was after that one.
Yeah.
And then I continued to train after that session, like the following week. Yeah, and I was, because you just don't really. As a rugby player, you don't really believe in it. Like, I don't think it's common enough knowledge how bad it can be. And you just get on with it. And you think, well, I'm playing rugby, I'm going to get concussed. Yeah. And
did you tell at that time when that happened, did you tell your coach or like your friends, family that happened?
No, I sort of told my mates on the day, but it was like it wasn't like a serious sevens tournament. It was just a sort of put together last minute tournament. So there weren't proper physios there or anything like that. So I just thought, sod it, I'll be right.
Yeah, you just thought that was normal.
Yeah, and I'd had so many head knocks like that before, and I just thought it was quite innocuous, and just I'll carry on. So I played a few more games that tournament.
And did you continue playing that game when you got?
I came off that game, but even going back on in the next game was an idiotic move, really. But yeah, so then post that, trained the following week, managed to trip over, playing like touch, so I just grab, not full contact at training. Smashed my head on probably the biggest bloke's shoulder on the team. Then I again didn't have any real symptoms, felt a bit groggy. Then that following weekend I was out with a few mates and we went to a chicken shop in Reigate chicken time. I think you know it. Yeah, he got in an argument with these guys, and I sort of went in to help him. And I was overly aggressive. I didn't need to go in and say what I said, but I wasn't really looking for a fight. Although probably it didn't help the situation. Anyway, I got headbutted, knocked my tooth out. Yeah, so this one's a fake one here.
Wow, it doesn't look fake though.
Thanks.
That's good.
Did a good job.
Wow.
Literally next day at dentist, emergency dentist. Yeah.
Oh, that must have felt horrible.
It
Waking
was
up with no tooth,
so
probably a banging
weird.
headache as well.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing. I was so hungover. I got in the altercation, and my mate ran out the shop because he got punched a couple of times, and then it was just me with these three guys, and just like I was getting punched.
That's so scary.
Endlessly.
I bet. I mean, I've not been in that situation before, but I bet when you're in that situation, you must feel like, oh my god, I can't believe this is actually happening to me. Like you just don't know, like your adrenaline must have been mad.
Yeah, I mean, I think you sort of. I don't know really. I don't want to sort of pick myself up to be someone who can deal with that situation well, but I don't know. I seem to feel like I dealt with it all right.
Yeah.
I wasn't punching anyone or anything. I wasn't trying to fight. I was just trying to get out of there.
Yeah.
But I mean, 3 against 1, you're never going to win that one, are you?
Course.
So yeah, I woke up the next day hungover, and I just thought the headaches and stuff was the hangover. Mm-hmm. But I went for a run with my brother in the evening, and
my god.
yeah, it felt like my head was floating above my body, like 5 foot above my body. It was really.
What? So did you just feel like completely disconnected from yourself?
Yeah, and it was just odd. Like the best way to describe it is like migraine symptoms. So I actually got chronic migraines as a result of the concussions. But yeah, anyway, so that happened. I then realised there was a problem. Didn't tell the right people at the right time, and I just thought, I'll just get through this. Like same thing, like the rugby player mentality, just get through it. And that following week, I could tell something wasn't right. And I remember sitting down to watch a rugby game the next weekend on the TV, and again, just felt like my head was floating above my body. It was really odd.
Oh. So what did you think at the time? Like, did you think anything else? Like, did you think it could be? Were you thinking, oh, maybe I'm just anxious, or I'm just feeling weird, or did you know deep down something was wrong?
I could definitely tell something was wrong because I'd never been the sort of person to worry about those head knocks before. I'd always just got on with it, and it had been fine. And so I knew something was up. But then it got worse because I had to go back to pre-season the following week for Beckett. And I felt quite... I wasn't forced to train or anything, but I was put it upon myself because I wanted to get that starting position for the first team. And it was I'd just broken into the first team a few weeks before the Sevens tournament, and so it was really exciting for me. I'd worked really hard to get to that point, and I was like, I can't let this concussion sort of stop me. Even though if I'd taken a few weeks off and recovered, I probably would have been playing a month later. But I just forced myself, went to training, was running around with the lads, and I felt okay during the training session, but it was always after the training session. It just was like, again, I just felt like my brain wasn't working properly. I wasn't in my own head. Yeah,
did you feel like you were just a bit delayed in everything?
Yeah, massively. And like vision went like quite cloudy and quite dull. It's horrible, and headaches, confusion. So like simple tasks I found really quite difficult, like literally trying to make scrambled eggs.
You just forget how to do it.
Oh, not quite forget how to do it, but like I'd put the frying pan on the heat, turn around to get the eggs out of the fridge, forget that I'm trying to get eggs out of the fridge, and I'm there going, what am I actually trying to cook? It was really odd. And I'd then remember I wanted the eggs, go back and think, I need to turn the heat on, go back to turn the heat on, the heat's already on, and I'm like, what the hell is going on?
Oh my God, you must have felt like you were going crazy.
Oh yeah, you do. It's just, I mean, I knew it was from the head knock, so I wasn't too scared, but it was still really confusing, quite scary.
So at what point did you then, after you felt like, okay, I kind of need to look further into this, at what point did you think I need to do something about this?
It's stupid really, because again, it goes back to this, I keep talking about it, it's that rugby player mentality. And what I mean by that is like, don't complain, just get on with it. And just, I don't know, maybe that was just me being an idiot, like just trying to be a tough guy.
No, but I think I mean, I personally don't play rugby, but I follow rugby, and I feel like it is sort of, anyone gets injured, you just carry on. It is that massive sort of, oh, you got to be tough, you got to carry on, don't be a baby, don't like call out of it. Like, there's just that whole, it's not even like an ego thing, but it's just like, oh, you've got to just get on, and that's probably why a lot of people have ended up in your situation you're in now. Yeah,
and that's exactly it. That's the problem with the game. So that's sort of what I'm trying to do now, is trying to raise awareness for that. it's like the hero complex. So in all sport, you have this, it's ingrained in you that if you sacrifice yourself or put yourself through pain for others, then you get this rewarding feeling. People will pat you on the back, and it's very rewarding. So if you're in the middle of a big game, first of all, you want to stay on the field. You want to carry on playing the sport you love, and you want to be involved in that big game that you might win, and then that's a great memory for you. But also, obviously, you're succeeding in the sport you love. But it's also for your teammates around you. And so you get stuck in this sort of internal battle where you don't want to take yourself off the field and let your mates down.
Yeah.
Even though you could be seriously hurt. And that happened to me so much. I'd get a head knock and I just would feel ashamed if I walked off the field. And that's great for most injuries. Like if you get a shoulder injury and you're on the field and you're in a lot of pain, you know there and then more or less how bad that injury is. And you'll have a physio come on and assess it, do sort of movements, and you'll know there and then if it's really bad, if you need to come off the field.
Yeah.
With your head, it's invisible. And there are tests to see, but you can blag them. So if they're asking you where you are or whatever, it could be a part of your brain that's not affecting your memory. So that doesn't cover that. And then if you're not showing real visible symptoms like stumbling around, and if you haven't been knocked out, 90% of concussions aren't knockout blows. So like you wouldn't know.
Originally, you just kept playing. When did you get to the point you actually had to say to the rugby team, you can't take part anymore?
Yeah, so I mean, that first one, I told my coaches what happened and told them I was concussed. I got sort of minimal help from the physio team there. It was quite a poor setup. I don't want to out them, but it just wasn't a great setup. So I was sort of alone in that, and I took about 9 months to get back to playing. But even then, I wasn't ready to come back. I was still getting migraines, still having symptoms. But it was better than what it was, and I just got a bit bored, really, to be honest. And I forced myself back, and I played sort of 4 or 5 games for Leeds Beckett at the back end of that season, which was amazing because I got my Bucks Super Rugby debut, played against Loughborough in my first game, which is obviously massive. Like, everyone knows Loughborough are brilliant. And so it was great, and I don't know if I regret it, but I just wasn't ready to come back. Anyway, yeah, I played those 4 or 5 games. Thought if I get through this, I've got the summer to recover. I can come back pre-season and be fit and ready. And that worked somehow. And came back halfway through pre-season, got a really innocuous knock to the head. Like just a glancing blow of someone's hip as I went to tackle them. And yeah, symptoms started to come back. And I was forcing myself through it again. And this time it was like I'd got captaincy for the first team, and so it was this feeling of that hero complex again.
Yeah, you have to.
I was like, I can't not. I can't let down my teammates and my squad. Like I'm leading them. What kind of a leader am I if I pull out halfway through pre-season? And ended up playing probably 4 or 5 games total, a couple of pre-season games, and then 3 league games. And yeah, I got knocked out in 2 of them.
Oh my God. It's crazy that you, throughout that whole process of you knowing you had something wrong, you knew it like deep down, but you were just so anti-quitting it when you should have. Like, if you could give advice to your younger self, or you saw someone similar in your position going through that right now, like what would you actually say to them?
Stop and rest.
Yeah.
Just stop and rest. If you've got... So, I mean, if I could go back at that first concussion, I just would have stopped, rested, fully recovered. Probably would have taken a month, and I probably would still be playing rugby today. But I was you're just so caught up in it.
Yeah.
And looking back to that period of the pre-season to those 4 or 5 games, I should have retired as soon as I realised, or taken an extended break as soon as I realised those symptoms were coming back. Because I look back now, like I talk about like Leeds Beckett, Bucks Super Rugby, it's great, it's brilliant, but it's not professional.
Yeah.
Like I was on a scholarship, but it's not pro. I'm not making enough money for it to be worth it to do this damage.
Yeah, and it's not... it's kind of like a complex. It's not worth it where you're now in this position where you're suffering with this. But then like the silver lining is you're in this position to help others, to prevent them from going through it. So it's like, if anything, although you've had to be the one that's been damaged by it, you're going to help others, and that's going to be so beneficial to other people.
Yeah,
that
definitely.
Potentially could be going through it.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that's sort of where I'm at now. It's been 2.5 years since I fully retired. And it's been a really long journey in discovering what I want to do to replace rugby, because it was everything for me. It was like, I step onto the field and you feel like everything in your life, just all the problems go away because you're playing and you just don't think about anything, and it's freedom, total freedom. So to try and replace that, it's been pretty difficult. But,
I was going to say, when you finally made that decision to stop, how did you deal with that mentally and physically?
Yeah, not great. Sort of resorted to alcohol a bit. I wasn't an alcoholic, but sort of as you do. Yeah, that was the escape, and I drank way too much. I was still at uni as well, so it's hard to escape that. Living in an all rugby boys' house.
I was going to say, that must be hard when all of your mates are still doing what you loved, and you're the one that just has to sit at home.
You know what? Standing on the sideline as well, especially as captain, going to all the games, because I didn't want to just give up and just walk away. So I was going to all the games still and trying to help out as much as I could, but it's just there like I've worked so hard to get to this point, and I've just got to let it go. And so that was really tough. But over this like 2.5 year period, I've learned so much about myself, and I've had to really unpick like why I needed that escape from rugby, from life through rugby, and actually I've just unpicked so much, and it's maybe not get into that now, but like it's quite eye-opening when you lose something that big in your life. And also, I mean, I went through a sort of period of 6 months because the symptoms were so bad, like the confusion, fogginess, headaches, tinnitus, migraines, like every possible symptom you can think of I had, and it wouldn't go away, and I didn't know how to make it go away. And I mean, every time I went to bed, I thought I was going to die in my sleep.
Really?
Yeah, so it was like a 6 month period of just like thinking I wasn't going to wake up again.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, so that teaches you a lot about life in general.
Yeah. And did you speak to people about it much, or was it sort of that phase where you just held it into yourself?
I think because also like I sort of blame myself, like as much as I could have had better support when I was playing and better decision making around that, it was still me who put myself in that position. I was still the one playing through the concussion. I had these obvious signs that there was something wrong, and I was playing through it. So I blamed myself, and I still do sort of blame myself, like, so I didn't feel like I deserved help.
I mean, I get that. I get it's like you feel that sense of almost like guilt that you were the one that's caused this. But then also I think what's great that you're doing is you're spreading more awareness, because if you were more aware and your team coaches would address you and be like, look, Barney, this has happened, you need to stop.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you were quite unsupported in that sense, where there wasn't much awareness around concussion and how severe it could get?
Yeah, I think so. That's what I'm now trying to do. So I present in schools. I've got the page. I'm involved in a company that make headbands that have got like a tracker in it. So if you get a hit to the head, it tells you exactly the amount of G-force that goes through the hit.
No way.
Yeah, it's got a little flashing light on it as well. So if you set the threshold, say if it's a youth rugby player, so like from obviously when you start contact, so around 8 or 9 to 18, I think it is, the threshold for a concussion is around 60 Gs. So you can set that on the device, and then if they get a hit above 60 Gs, it flashes red. And it's really obvious flashing light, so then you just know, right, take him off.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. So
that's really good. So what's that called?
Dymotech.
Dymotech.
Yeah, so we're very young, just sort of starting to reach out to schools and clubs at the moment.
Wow,
to try
and
and
how
get
you
that
find that? How do you feel after? Because obviously you said you had that phase where you sort of, not like that cringe, like finding out like who you are, but you basically are when you're in that situation. How do you feel like you've felt within yourself since setting up this page and helping others? Do you feel like you get reward from it, like that reward you kind of got from rugby, that feeling of completing something and achieving something? Do you feel like you get that through this?
Yeah, definitely. So I think I've discovered what's brilliant about helping others is just the best feeling ever. Like having people reach out to me on the page asking for advice around concussion, and I've sort of guided a number of people through like concussion and recovery, and then back playing rugby. That is the most rewarding thing I've ever experienced. And I think it then goes back to that hero complex again. It's like finding that again, and that gives me the same feeling of, because it's about helping your teammates when you're in a game, but with this it's like helping someone else, and actually really helping someone else. It's not just helping someone win a game of rugby and helping your mate enjoy a beer after the game that much more. It's helping someone in their actual life recover from a serious injury.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
It's so good how you sort of changed that one hero complex into the complete opposite, and you didn't just go through this and think, do you know what, fuck this, I can't play anymore, I'm going to be depressed, I'm not going to do anything about it. Like the fact you've actually taken that step to help others, because it's like if you were initially going through this and you saw someone's page like yourself, that would have helped you so much in your own journey.
Yeah, it's been amazing, to be honest, but I'm sat here 2.5 years later. I think for at least a year of that, I was in that mindset of fuck this, like I'm done, like fuck everyone, fuck the world. I felt so unfair, and as soon as I sort of got past that feeling and thought, you know what, I don't want to feel sorry for myself anymore, I want to make a difference, and it came from just wanting to have a higher purpose, you know, like.
Yeah, I was going to say, what triggered that point where you wanted to change? And
I think just when I started to get better. So after about 6 to 7 months of the final concussion, like I was in a real bad place. Like suicidal thoughts, like really low. Yeah, and it was really tough. And I was going through my dissertation as well, so it was just like a really stressful time in my life anyway. And I remember I went home and finally sort of opened up about it to my parents and told them how I was feeling, and then managed to start getting some help. But the help for like long-term concussion problems, like post-concussion syndrome, it's so hard to find, and it's really it's not well known at all. So it was really hard to find the help, but once I did find the help, I started to recover. But again, it's still such a slow process. Like concussion is so complex. There's so many different things that can be going wrong with your brain and around your brain. So it can be like the ear stuff that can cause similar symptoms to concussion. You can have neck dysfunction. So if you've got a problem in your neck, you can have the exact same symptoms as concussion. But yeah, so once I started to recover and I got better to a point where I felt more comfortable in my life, I was like, there must be so many other people going through this. There's so many people that play rugby, and concussion it's such a common injury in rugby. So there must be other people suffering. And if they've not had the same support network that I managed to get through my parents and some of my family and my friends, then they might not be recovering, and they might be in this position where they feel that bad.
Yeah.
And there's no help for them. So I thought, why not just document my journey and how I've recovered and what I'm now doing. And it might inspire people to see that there is a light at the end of the tunnel.
That's amazing. That's so good you've sort of put yourself in that position. I think what you said at the beginning is such a big part of this story, is when you start to feel better is when you initially opened up. And I think that's such a big problem that we still suffer with, especially men. You don't like to open up about your feelings.
Yeah.
And it is why the suicide rates are so high, why a lot more men are depressed than women, is because you feel, it's like, it's not all like your ego, but you just feel like you've got to be that strong masculine man, and speaking about feelings makes you weak when it doesn't. But if you were to not speak about that, you literally wouldn't be where you are right now. Yeah,
I completely agree, and that's what I was sort of thinking about on the way over, was how much it does help really talking about it. And I think it's important to remember though, like for me, what I've learned is, talk about it, but as soon as you possibly can, as soon as you can face it, start coming up with a strategy to fix your problem, whether it be mental, physical, whatever it is. It's not going to fix itself just by talking. The talking is the first step. It's then coming up with a plan, an action plan. And I think I'm very purpose driven, but so that made sense for me. And don't get me wrong, again, it took me a long time to do that, but that's what I've learned after the last 2.5 years now. That's the way I sort of view it.
It is, and it's like what you're not changing, you're choosing.
Yes.
So if you're not changing something in your life, you're choosing to sit in that down, depressed, sort of low vibrational energy aura. So in terms of people that could be suffering with concussion now, what sort of strategy do you think they should take in terms of how do they deal with it? How do they minimize the symptoms and effects, and how do they get through it?
So there's a lot of ways you can help, but it's so complex again. But I'd say the first thing is that if you've just had one, if you literally got knocked out yesterday, first 48 hours, once you've got a sign off from a medical professional to say that you're okay and you've not got any of the really serious stuff like a brain bleed or whatever, then it's like rest. So as soon as you can, take a nap. As soon as you, like, just sleep for basically the first 48 hours. But what's also massively important is, like, obviously your brain runs off of something, so you've got to feed yourself in the right way. So nutrition is pivotal. Like, so I got concussed skiing a few weeks ago, actually.
No.
I know, it's ridiculous. It just
so you've
follows
been like
me.
healing for ages, and you.
Yeah. It was really frustrating, but.
And do you feel like that's taken you back a lot?
No, to be fair. So it's literally that, like, my previous concussions, I didn't know how to heal myself quickly because it's not common knowledge. And I mean, you go to like your GP and they're not specialists in that area. So you won't get the help you need, like the really good help. Anyway, so through obviously the last couple of years, I've learned so much about it. I actually saw it as quite a good opportunity to test what I've been learning and see how quickly I can recover. And to be honest, so that first 48 hours, again, once I got the sign off, I spoke to one of my physios from the rugby club and she said, I think you're fine. I went to a supermarket and got a load of ingredients that I knew would be beneficial to my brain. Basically, like there's thousands of little like vitamins and different stuff that you could eat that will help with your brain functioning, reduce inflammation in the brain and stuff. And that's basically what concussion is. It's like inflammation in the brain. And
so what sort of food is that? Is it all sort of like kale?
Yeah, like the classics. But I mean, ones like turmeric. Turmeric is like a superpower food.
Really?
It's crazy. So there's actually a region in, I want to say India, that has a high percentage of turmeric in their food. They have minimal cases of Alzheimer's and dementia because it's so good for your brain, so good for the anti-inflammatories and increasing BDNF. So BDNF, I can't remember exactly what it stands for, but it's basically the protein in the brain that helps to growth and repair of neurons. So if you can boost that as much as possible, then that's obviously ideal.
So you have turmeric tea every day?
Yeah, basically, yeah. But that's Conquer. So one of the brands I'm sort of linked up with at the moment, Conquer.
Oh, yeah, I saw that on your Instagram. Is that what they have in there? So they give you little shots?
Yes. So you sort of sign up for a subscription and you get enough for the month. You have one shot a day, and there's Formula 1 and Formula 2. So Formula 1 is your sort of like pre-workout type thing for cognitive load. It's basically got 6 unique ingredients or uniquely put together ingredients, all known to help with brain functioning and cognitive functioning. And basically it's anti-inflammatories, BDNF boosting, and antioxidants. And it's like it genuinely is insane. How
have
good
you
it
seen
is.
like the effects from that?
Oh, massively. Like, I don't need coffee anymore because it genuinely replaces coffee for me.
Wow.
Like, you just have this buzz throughout the day.
Do you?
And it doesn't dip until you naturally get tired.
And is that only sort of a product to deal with people that have dealt with concussion, or is it just a general?
Initially it was. So the founders, Humphrey and Harry. So Humphrey was the guy who sort of put together. He had the same thing as me, university rugby, concussed, like similar symptoms like the confusion and like amnesia and stuff. And he was there like, well, he's a very clever guy. He's like, well, how can I actually fix this? What's chemically going wrong in my brain? And he basically sat in his kitchen and put together all these nootropics, we call them. And yeah, created this shot and it seemed to help him. So
wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. So so this recent concussion, I put that all to the test, rested for the first 48 hours. I didn't ski the next day. I did ski the following day, or the following day after that rest day, very carefully, just going down blues very slowly. But what's a common misconception is that you need to rest for 21 days and just like all out rest and don't do anything. But all that does is basically switches off your brain. Your brain's like a muscle. If you don't use it, you lose it. So once you're ready and like the symptoms aren't terrible, or even if the symptoms are bad, you want to get on like a watt bike and just go. I mean pedaling like literally at this speed. Yeah. But you're just trying to get oxygen-rich, nutrient-rich blood to your brain.
It's just
start
like
the
slowly
recovery
easing
process.
yourself back into it.
Yeah, and a bit of exercise. So like slow exercise and that just getting that blood to the brain boosts the BDNF again, and also doing a bit of cognitive functioning tests. So like if you have like a brain game on your phone, it's really good to do that. But it's good to do it while you're doing the exercise because you're getting nice fresh blood to the brain.
Two birds, one stone.
Exactly. But if you're doing it sat there without the exercise, it might give you more symptoms. So it's good to do both at the same time.
What apps do you recommend? Do you have that Cetera one?
I don't, but Conc actually have an app alongside.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, so they got this cognitive testing app, and it's brilliant. I don't want to keep talking about Conc, but I'm partnered with them, but it's not. I don't benefit from it, but it's. I just think it's brilliant. Like, it's amazing. But to answer your question about, is it just for concussion? No, it's like, so they want to make it so it's like an athlete boosting product. So they've got a number of athletes, a number of rugby players in the professional circuit, GB7s players. I think Marcus Smith's using it. Jack Willis plays over in France now. Tom Willis. So it's to boost their performance on the field as much as possible, more than anything. But it does protect against concussion in a way.
So it's kind of working like in both ways. Yeah,
and helps with the recovery. So if you get like a minor bang to the head that isn't necessarily concussion, so it's subconcussive, it can help you recover from that quicker.
Wow, that's amazing.
It's brilliant. So yeah, I mean, I'd recommend it to anyone in corporate world. Like I did recruitment for 6 months, and I basically lived off coffee, like 4 coffees a day, to keep yourself going, because long hours. But I think if I had Conquer, I wouldn't need a coffee at any point throughout the day.
That sounds so good.
It's
I'm definitely
amazing.
going to look into that after this.
Yeah.
So with concussion, you recommend rest, but not for too long.
Yeah.
Nutrition, and is there anything else, or is it just sort of just balancing those out?
Yeah, I mean, for the first sort of couple of weeks, obviously speak to a medical professional as much as you possibly can. Like, if you've got access to a physio, just talk to them every day. Like, bug them, because they know enough to help you through it, and they can sort of help you, point you in the right direction. I'm not a medical professional, I don't want to give advice, but this is what I did, and it helped me. So that first week, I did exactly that. Just got on the watt bike every day, like, just was trying to push myself a little bit, but you got to be very slow with it. So increasing your blood flow each day by going slightly faster on the bike. But I mean, literally, like, end of week 1, I was still pedaling like this fast. So it's like 80, 90 beats per minute.
Wow,
that's it.
Got to take baby steps, don't go too.
Yeah, very much so. And I mean, you might be lucky and the symptoms clear up after that, but so it's taking it really slow, and then once you can sort of build up from that, then do. But again, I don't really want to give advice on stuff, and then people go and mess themselves up. Yeah. Maybe look at my page. I could probably explain it a little bit better on there. But
yeah. So how are you doing now? Like, what? Obviously, since that skiing accident, how is everything with you now? Are you feel like you're healing?
Yeah,
good,
I'm back to it. I feel completely fine day to day. No symptoms, but I'm still pushing myself back into the gym. So back to lifting weights again, but. Yeah, I get symptoms after lifting weights, so you've got to sort of rein it back. And again, it's just a very slow process. What you don't want to do is give yourself major symptoms and then set yourself back a number of days. Because, I mean, the first concussion I got when I went to that pre-season and was pushing myself through that's what happened. And then those symptoms didn't go away for a month. So if you push yourself too far, basically you just increase the inflammation in your brain, and then your brain goes into panic mode, and you can set yourself back. So just take it really slow. It slowly. Yeah.
And if you your younger self, if you go back to your younger self, or sort of give advice to teammates, coaches, or family members when someone like yourself is dealing with those effects, those symptoms early on, like, what would you tell them to say, or advice you would give them?
Just take it seriously. Like, you're not invincible. Everyone thinks they're invincible until they get a bit older, I think. But especially male brains don't develop fully until sort of 25. So, and the last thing to develop is the frontal cortex, and in that is your ability to sort of have rational thought about your own health. I don't know how to phrase that properly, but and so there you've got all these people, all these males, young lags going out and smashing themselves to pieces on a rugby field on a Saturday, and the reason I think they don't have that self-awareness is because they haven't developed it in their brain yet. Really? So they're running around smashing themselves to pieces, and they still don't have that instinct to protect themselves. Yeah. So it's a really dangerous place to be. I'm still a strong advocate for the game, people playing the game. I don't want to put people off, and that's like a massive thing that I try and make a point about on my page, is that I love rugby, and rugby's given me so much. It's taken me all around the world. I've been to Cape Town to play over there, I've been to San Diego to play there, and all around the UK as well. And it's an amazing sport. You learn so much there's so many core values of rugby that you can then take on to your life. And if you play sensibly enough, and take injuries seriously, including other injuries as well, then you're not really putting yourself in a bad position, and you'll be fine long term, I'm sure. But people don't. People do ignore the symptom. People play through concussion, and that's where they end up in those tricky positions when they're older.
Yeah, I feel like throughout this whole episode, the main message is stop pushing through the pain. Like when you're feeling the pain, you need to stop.
Yeah, there's a reason your body's telling you. So, and yeah, it's a tough one with rugby. Like if you want to be good at rugby, you've got to be able to sort of take pain. Like the game really fucking hurts. Like you're as you say, you're slamming into people, and it's only getting worse as well. People are getting more athletic. People are getting bigger, and I think we're probably at the maximum point of how big people can get while running around for 80 minutes. So I don't think it's going to get worse in that respect. But people are still like, like there's wingers and sort of backs that run 100 meters in sort of 10 seconds. So they're rapid people.
That's like Mark Smith, isn't he? So fast.
Oh yeah, he's rapid. I mean, you look at like someone like Cheslin Colby. I don't know if you know who he is. He's South African winger. He's probably the quickest bloke I've ever seen. I saw him play, and it's the quickest thing I've ever seen in real life. It's ridiculous.
Wild, isn't it?
But they're like slamming into each other, going at that speed. And you've got someone running the
same
speed the other direction. So, I mean, but that's the spectacle of the sport. That's why we love it. It's so entertaining.
Yeah, it is.
And as long as you are sensible and you tackle in the right way and you carry in the right way, you're not going to get hurt. Well, you might, but you're mitigating all of the possible outcomes.
Well, it's good you've put yourself in this position to help others, because I'm sure anyone that is listening to this now is going to definitely find help from it. And what is your sort of future goals with your page you've set up? Like, is there anything you want to sort of bring from that?
Yeah, so first of all, it's just trying to get into as many schools as possible and present about my story. I think I offer a bit of a unique perspective to the people that normally talk about concussion, because most of the time it's like someone in their 50s or a doctor who's either never played rugby or they're an old school rugby player. And so if you're looking at it as an 18-year-old, you're like, well, who's this guy? Like, and it's not going to affect me for another 30 years. So I offer a slightly different perspective. Like I was 18, well, quite a long time ago now, but it doesn't feel like that.
Closer than a 50-year-old.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, just get into schools as much as I can to give this fresh perspective or slightly different perspective for the kids. So maybe it will hit them a little bit better. And starting a bit of a podcast myself. That's very much in the early makings. So hopefully get that out soon. Obviously working with Diamotech, Conquer, and I'm also started creating a bit of a research project. So there's been a lot of evidence, some decent evidence around hyperbaric chamber treatment, so oxygen therapy, and helping with concussion and post-concussion syndrome, traumatic head injuries and stuff. So I really want to put together a bit of a study and see if I can get like 50 to 100 people that are suffering the same way I was or sort of still am, and see if we can get some sort of treatment that dead on actually fixes
and it works syndrome rather than trying to find out, trying to spend so much time to find out what can help you.
Exactly. So I mean, just to briefly explain, the way it works is you sit in a chamber, it changes the atmospheric pressure to 1.5 ATA, which is basically the equivalent of being underwater. I think it's like 15 to 16 foot underwater, so you get that pressure while breathing 90% plus oxygen through a mask. And what that does is allows your body to absorb that oxygen so much better. So there's loads of benefits from that physically. We know it helps with like loads of chronic problems, and I can't exactly explain the science, but my memory's not great, funny enough.
Same, that's why I start this podcast.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, you know the pain. So anyway, I think that'd be really interesting, and hopefully
that's good. I mean, I've heard of those oxygen chambers before, because a woman I had on before, about 3 episodes ago, she also had a brain tumor, and when she still doesn't now, when she's healing, I think she has like one of those little pods you can get at home, and it just pumps the oxygen around it, because I think it's just really good for brain health in general.
Yeah.
And she also said a lot about nutrition, and I think it's until I've had guests like you come on, it's like you're just so unaware of all these different techniques, because it's just not really spoken about.
No, and if you're not looking for it, if you don't need it, then why would you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I highly recommend it. So I managed to find a company that would have helped me out. I've got a chamber in my house now, so it's
do you?
Yeah, so it's a soft shell chamber, and I get in it as much as I can. Try and do that every day, do an hour.
Wow.
And it's really like.
Do you feel refreshed when you come out of it?
Oh yeah, massively. I mean, when you're in it, they've obviously got 90% oxygen. That normal air we breathe is 25%. So
No
Yeah,
way.
it's a massive increase. And so when you're in there, you feel like really alive and buzzed.
Do you remember at festivals, did you ever go to Reading, they had that oxygen bar where
Yeah.
you like put it up your nose and you thought you was like high?
Yes, exactly.
And that's literally
exactly
it.
the same thing. Yeah.
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 Oh my God, that's so good.
So I haven't tested it with hangover yet, but I imagine it probably helps.
Oh yeah, that will sort you out.
Yeah.
So everyone, if you get pissed, just order one of these little chambers.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And you'll be completely fine.
Yeah.
But no, you should be so proud of yourself putting
Thank
yourself
you.
on this page and
Thanks.
sort of helping others, because I think, like I said earlier, if you had someone helping yourself when you was going through it, you'd find it a lot more helpful. And I think it's just that feeling of not feeling alone, not feeling like you're facing this problem alone, because that's also probably a big reason you didn't open up about it.
Yeah.
You didn't want to be the one man in the team suffering with it. You didn't want to be the one man out of your friends that's admitting to these problems.
Massively. It's just such a lonely place to be. Like with any injury you get, whether it's your knee, shoulder, whatever, when you have to take that time off, you've gone from having a support network effectively of, I mean, a squad's probably made up of about 35 blokes and you're really, really good friends with all these guys. And then suddenly that's taken away more or less, because even if you are injured and you're still turning up and doing your rehab on a Tuesday or Thursday night and then watching the game on Saturday, you're not involved. So it can be really lonely in that respect. And then concussions, that one step like further, because you've got this sort of, you're in this state of confusion and like fogginess, and it's a really lonely place to be. So yeah, I hope that's what my page is doing for some people, is just allowing them to feel like they're not alone in this, because you're not, ultimately.
As much as it feels like it is.
Yeah, and there's loads of help. There is loads of help out there. It's just you've got to be good at finding it, or not good at, lucky to find it, more or less. It's getting better, and people are making the right sort of moves within the rugby world and other contact sport worlds to make it more prevalent and help to raise that understanding for the injury. But it is just so complex as well. So it's like so many different avenues you can go down.
Yeah. And it's good to hear you're doing better than this time 2 years ago, or however long it was.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a constant journey as well. And that's why, so the page is called The Concussion Journey, because I'm still going through it. Like,
It's not like you've had it dealt with it.
No, and like, I think there's still loads of stuff I need to unpick from it. And I've still got like physical problems from it. So there's like a PTSD side of things with concussion sometimes. And for me, especially like that 6 month period of thinking I wasn't going to wake up when I went to bed, that's definitely had an effect on me. And I still haven't addressed that fully. So there's still more to do for me.
But the fact you're aware, that's a good step.
Yeah,
that you're aware you need to unpick that, you need to address those situations. You can't do it all at once. But the fact you're sitting there knowing you have to, that's definitely the first step, and you're on the right track.
I mean, yeah, so like I've literally just started speaking to a psychotherapist recently to sort of try and unpick that a little bit. And I think a major thing for anyone going through something or has had something sort of traumatic happen to them, sometimes you can't look at certain things yet. It takes a while to get to the point where you can look at those things and address those things, because it's just too much in that moment. Like if you're going through loss or whatever it is.
And I think in that moment you think, oh, I'm never going to be able to look at this. I'm never going to be able to
Yeah,
deal with this. But
exactly.
you will. It's just you're not in that current state right now. Yeah.
And for me, like literally speaking to this psychotherapist in like the first session I did last week, she was just asking me some really basic questions around it. And my heart rate was going up, and I felt myself like really panicking talking about it. And I was there like, shit, like I really haven't addressed this, and it's really a problem. So how much is that affecting me in my day-to-day life without me even realising?
Yeah. And I feel like the longer you keep it, the longer you hold it in and don't let it go, it just the momentum just builds up. And then when you finally address the situation, that's when it sort of just blows up.
That's it. And I think also, like, if you're constantly in this state of sort of stress or you've got this looming over you, your room for being able to deal with things emotionally is so much smaller. And I've found myself, I'm so much angrier than I used to be, you know, and it's not like I get angry at people, just like my immediate emotional response to stressful situations is to feel anger in myself. And that's, I never used to be like that. So it's obviously affecting me in that way. And so like it can affect people differently, and whether it's you just get more emotional or whatever. But the point is, your ability to deal with things that should be quite easy to deal with is so much smaller. And so, it massively affects your life. And that's something I'm now sort of starting to realise and have done over the last couple of months. And it's like, ooh.
And I think that's good that you've started this page while you're still going through it, because if someone's going through it now, it will make them feel like you're doing it together.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like you're just this amazing inspiration who had it 10 years ago and this is what you got to do. Because now, like, if they come to you with questions, you can genuinely relate, because you're like, oh, mate, I'm going through this as well. Like, I have these problems, and then they feel like, oh my God, it's not just me, which is so good.
Yeah. I hope that's the effect it has, because, I mean, life's tough, right? Like, there's always stuff coming at you, and there's always things that are going to get you down. And I think it's really good to have the ability to try and face that as quick as you can. And then again,
definitely.
like, come up with that strategy to go forward. And obviously some problems are worse than others, but I think if you can apply that to your day-to-day life or your week to week, whatever it is, however much you get affected by things, then it's a good way of going forward, I think.
Well, yeah, you've clearly shown that, and it's amazing what you're doing.
Thanks.
And to end this episode off, have you got any sort of task or anything that someone can do this week to make them feel good, or maybe like something that's related to your situation?
Yeah, I think it goes back to that, exactly what I've just said then. I think if you've got a problem and you've spoken about it now, or if you're trying to get to that step where you want to speak about it, air it, get someone else's opinion on it, try and find an angle of attack, and then make a step in the right direction. And it can be so small. Like, for me, for example, just getting on that watt bike and just doing a couple of minutes or an hour or whatever it is, get that done.
Stop putting it off.
You know you've done it for that day, then go again the next day. It's small incremental steps can make a huge difference over time. So it's just take that action to make something happen.
No, that's so good. Yeah. And also, have you got a good song that makes you feel good that I can add to the playlist?
I don't know if someone said it already. Free Bird, Leonard Skinner.
No, I'm not expecting you to sing it, but I've not actually heard that.
It's just got the best guitar solo ever.
It? Really?
It's the longest and the best. It's like a 10-minute song. It's ridiculous.
I'd probably know it if I heard it. Yeah. Because that's probably quite
I'm not going to try and sing it. Good try.
Do a little guitar solo.
Good try, yeah. No, it's brilliant. That's one of my favourite songs.
Okay, well, that'll be adding it into the list.
Cool.
But yeah, Barney, thank you so much for coming on this episode and spreading awareness about concussion. You've been
pleasure.
amazing, and yeah, like I said, you should be so proud of putting yourself out there and helping others.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you everyone for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.